What's up, guys? It's Wes, the People's Pitmaster, back again for another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that drops every Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week we sat down with Stump McDowell. Yes, that's right, the Stump from Stump Smokers. This week we're headed north to Canada. Chef Matt. Chef, are you there?
I am here, and I definitely do not have a cool enough name to compete with Stump. Like that is, I need to work on that.
Yeah, it's Walter Stump McDowell. He started Stump Smokers back in the late '80s, and he's kind of a big name in the George barbecue circle. Kind of everybody knows who he is. He sold his business a number of years back and kind of did a semi-retired thing, and he's actually in the process of starting a new YouTube channel, Cooking with Stump. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Love it. Again, Chef Matt just does not hold up to Stump.
Yeah, he says, due to my tallness is why they called him Stump. Real short guy, obviously. So Matt Basile, did I pronounce that correct?
You got it like an 81%. So I will.
That's fair.
It's you got an A- on that pronunciation, so we're good.
Well, hit it for me one time.
Yeah, so it's Matt Basile, which I'm an Italian Canadian, which there's quite a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so we're based in southern Italy, so it's kind of the a lot more like my family. We're all farmers, and just in like the southern region of Rome, and most of my family emigrated to Canada back in the day, and here we are now.
Okay, awesome. So, kind of walk me through. You are Chef Matt, because I can't do your last name. You started the Gastro Fidel Gastro food truck back in the day. What did you do before you were a chef?
Yeah, so pre-chef, I was actually a writer in advertising agencies. I was early 20s, right out of university. Got into advertising. My dad had worked in advertising. So that was like one side of how my brain worked, was always like thinking of big ideas and like how could you come up with something new and different creatively. The other side of it though, and we were touching on my Italian roots, and the reason why that matters is because everything we did surrounded around like food and feeding people and meals. So in my early 20s, when I was like, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to start my own company. The way it kind of started was this idea for a sandwich pop-up company. And I thought it was really clever to call it Fidel Gastro's. And we did Cuban sandwiches because that wasn't really a thing here at the time. And it really just evolved from there. And we're looking at, a 12-year kind of story arc of launching a food truck, launching a full restaurant, launching a bar and quick service restaurants and catering companies. And I had a show on Netflix for a bit. I've got a couple cookbooks. So really like it was this tree with a lot of branches. And it all came back to creating really fun food over about a 12-year kind of journey.
Yeah. So just your background in food kind of led you towards using that as your day-to-day income, and we started the food truck and the cookbooks and the Netflix shows. And I was doing a little reading up on you. I've got a couple of buddies of mine up in the Canada area, none of which are listed on the net worth internet website. So I was like, oh, who is this guy here? He's
funny.
So I was perusing some of the sites, and I was like, yeah, I typically don't get any kind of information from a what is this person's net worth website. So I was like, he must be a big deal. And I was digging and
I
digging
was on
and
that.
digging.
I was on this net worth website.
Yes.
It can't be real. Whatever it says, it's probably a lie. Make sure it's really me and not like there's a Matt Basile who's a bass player in a band somewhere. But
no,
it's me.
Yeah, it's
probably
you.
not real. But,
no, there's no numbers. Full disclosure, there's no numbers on there. But I was like, he's on the site, so he's coming up on it here.
That's fun, man. That's a lot. I had no idea. It's wild when like I don't sit around and just Google my name. So it's interesting when you hear someone else has and
Well,
what they
yeah,
come up with.
like I said, I said, I kind of feel like I've heard the name, Alchemy before, but I was like, I don't know who you are, and like I've heard whisperings of the Fidel Gastro, I just didn't know who you were,
Sure.
and obviously there's
Here we are.
millions and millions of people that are in the food industry and in barbecue and everything else. So I had to obviously do a little research, and I was like, I'm not real sure if we're on the same page here or not. I'm like, I'm I'm reaching up here.
Listen, man, it's all about. Well, first off, that's very kind of you to say that, but like, it's all about food and community and meeting new people and telling a story, and especially because now we talked about my old world of Fidel Gastros and my restaurant, but now we're into a new world, which is launching Alchemy Grills, and it's something that's going to be launching here in Canada because we are Canadian, and hopefully the goal is by year 2 to be in the U.S. market. So it's an opportunity to begin again and to reintroduce yourself to people again. And so any opportunity to kind of take a moment and get on a podcast and talk about fire cooking, I get excited because
Yeah.
I think it really it's such a communal aspect to it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. As barbecue is a community, period.
There you go.
I don't know if you've ever done any kind of barbecue competitions at all, but that's kind of how I got my footprint in the barbecue world is dealing with the competition stuff, and it's always been about camaraderie and that sort of thing. So coming together around live fire is powerful. It's powerful stuff.
It really is, and I think it's always like I never take it for granted when you have an opportunity to cook in front of a new audience,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very lucky. I've done a lot of travel, and when you have an opportunity to cook in front of a completely new group, it's a way to showcase who you are and where you came from, because all of that gets kind of intertwined in a flavor profile or in the way you put a dish together. So yeah, for me, like traveling and going to um, whether they're formal barbecue competitions, but more just opportunities to cook in new cities. Really, is what I
Mm-hmm.
look for. Whether it's a large experiential dinner or a chance just to meet someone new and just cook for 4 people. So
Yeah.
I really, really think that is the continuing education of my career path.
Yeah, well, and your continuing education's is kind of evolved into it's something new each time where you're leveling up, or I mean, even if you consider it a lateral move, like from the food, from the food truck, from the pop up before to the food truck,
Sure.
and
Yeah, they were cascading moves, right? Like you're
yeah,
just growing, you're taking what you've learned and you're now growing it into something more and bigger. And I think that's also the heart of being, an entrepreneur too, right? So when you take those two worlds together and combine them, it's like,
yeah,
yeah, you know what, you need to fill that cup from a culinary standpoint, but then what's the business part of your brain saying? Like, how does
yeah,
that want to grow? And that's why like this most recent project, I call it a project, but it's more than that. Obviously, with starting a brand new wood fire smoker and grill company, it really allowed me to combine my background in culinary, my background in advertising, you know, heck, even my background working in butcher shops,
hmm
growing up as a kid, right? So it's this kind of perfect culmination of experience and years of experience coming to one place.
yeah. And obviously, we're speaking of the new grill company, Alchemy. Um, and it's kind of an interesting name for a grill company. Of course, I mean there's all kinds of weird names out there. Legion, Rectech, Yoder,
Sure.
Stumps. A little callback, but what what drove you to moving into the live fire cooking like that as a as a business, I guess, as starting up something like that? What drove you towards that?
Well, it was actually never on my radar. It was, so barbecue and cooking over fire had been a huge component of my other business. We had a barbecue division in our catering. We used to do big live fire cookouts all the time. My restaurant had this massive smoker in it already when we bought it. Like, so I learned how to, to use it and use it often and use it well. So it
Mm-hmm.
was, but the alchemy part didn't actually come into play until about 2.5 years ago, where I was approached by my now business partners, and they were like, "Hey, we have an idea. We'd love to throw some ideas at you about starting up a new. We're starting up a new grill company. Maybe you could do some influencer work for us down the road.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to just get your thoughts on it." And that's where the original talk about what alchemy was at the time, which was pretty much a blueprint and an idea,
Mm-hmm.
and then where it could go. And I was immediately drawn to what my business partners were trying to achieve
Mm-hmm.
with the physical unit, a combination of different types of fire cooking in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like I love that, because I think to use a smoker is great, but to also cook over like a live fire pit is like something altogether very different. And to combine that into one unit, which is what this is,
Mm-hmm.
I thought was an incredible opportunity to provide something very new and fresh and kind of disruptive for a market that really, not to say this in a negative way. I'm not saying a negative way at all, but like if you think about it, like a pellet electric smoker was probably the biggest disruptor in the market in the last 5-10 years. So
Mm-hmm.
going in that direction. So now this is going almost back to its roots in the sense of it's all live fire again. It's charcoal and wood, but we've established something that we call simultaneous cooking. You
Mm-hmm.
can smoke in one area of the barbecue, and you can grill on the other area of the barbecue at two completely opposing temperatures. So you can do
Mm-hmm.
250 and 600 at the exact same time. And one fire doesn't impact the other fire because there's two separate fires, but they're all housed in one unit. And for me, I think it's super cool to be able to, as someone who loves cooking for people, it's a great showpiece. It allows you to cook a lot of food for a lot of people. It really pushes the boundaries of what people think of when you're conventionally saying, "I'm gonna fire up the grill and make
Mm-hmm.
food or lunch for people." You can have two briskets, or you can have 8 racks of ribs, or you can have 10 spatchcock chickens smoking down below. But then you can do smash burgers and grilled veg and whole fish all up top.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard the vision, I was like, this is new and different and something I'd love to be a part of. And there was an opportunity to be a part of it on a much larger scale. So
Mm-hmm.
I became a partner in the company with the other two guys, and it was a way we go. And the best part was none all of us were entrepreneurs, and none
Mm-hmm.
of us had any idea how to start a barbecue company. So there was so like all very idea focused and all very passionate about the space, but all of us were like, "Is this right? Like, are we doing this right?" But it was quite a journey from engineers and industrial designers to manufacturing to doing live events. That was another huge part of it, was how could we tap into my background in restaurants and showcase and market this product in a very new way. So we host these big live fired dinners up on this farm that I'm currently on right now. And so it's been really awesome to see. We're 2.5 years in since day one. Really, a lot of the momentum is picked up since June of last year. So we're almost a year of all this testing
Mm-hmm.
and bringing to ideation and really trying things out. So now we'll be in officially in market by mid June. So sorry,
Okay.
mid May, and mid May is like around the corner. So
Very
that's pretty
close.
wild. Yeah. So it's close, but I feel like if not now, then when, right? Like there's been so much spec work being done that it's just time to put it out. And we've got some great retail partners up here in Canada that are really excited about it because we're excited about it.
Hmm.
We have a great kind of audience and community of people that are excited for what we're doing. And I think as we grow to new markets, the goal is to just always kind of keep that level of disruption always present because
Hmm.
we'll come to a new city or a new state and showcasing a completely new style of cooking and hopefully people gravitate towards it the same way we have.
Yeah. So walk me through the design. The because I don't have an illustration that I'm popping up on the screen. It's kind of like a barrel smoker, and you said there's two fires.
Yeah, so that's a great way to look at it. Is think of it as a barrel smoker with a basically like a plancha grill attached to it on top. So
Hmm.
there's a fire that sits under that top grill. So that top grill is circular. It has a fire pit in the middle. It's half plancha and half diamond grate.
Hmm.
And that has a very direct flame underneath it. That's your grilling and your plancha barbecue, if you want to call it that. So that's where you're getting more of your high temperature cooks. Beneath that, there's a door that opens, and there's a 4 shelf stackable smoker with a secondary fire pit underneath the last shelf, and that allows you to do your low and slow. So it yeah, like it's got a hanging mechanism. It's got 4 shelves, so you can hang stuff from it. You can, yeah, you're not far off. There you go. Yeah. If that was a police sketch, I think you got 81% again. So there you go. um, so yeah, so what's great about it is it allows you don't have to use both elements. You
Hmm.
can use just the top or you can use just the bottom. You don't have to use them both at the same time. But the way it's been engineered is it's meant to be used simultaneously. So that way you can get the benefits of both. I really tell people the star way to showcase it is doing a reverse smoke sear tomahawk steak, right? So
Yeah.
you can fit about probably about 8 tomahawks in the smoker area,
Hmm.
and you can get them smoking at 220 to an internal temp of 110. You can pull them off and then go directly on that upper unit and get a beautiful crust on it and let the
Hmm.
temperature climb to that 125, 130 area. And I guess the reason why I say that is in any other unit, you'd either have to pull them off, build a new fire, get that same grill up to temp, or use a completely different unit
Hmm.
altogether that's meant just for high temperature grilling.
Yeah.
So the when you're able to go from one area of the alchemy to the next seamlessly, it really does showcase just how much it can do.
Yeah.
And I've cooked on everything. I've cooked everywhere around the world. I've cooked on buses, food trucks, boats,
Yeah.
restaurants, banquet halls. Like this is the most fun I've ever had cooking because it's just so immersive and so
Yeah.
interactive. And the upper unit, the lid comes completely off, so you can actually cook 360 degrees around it. So you can actually gather around the fire and have
Yeah.
a bit of a social element versus
Almost
a
like a
lot of
hibachi.
yeah, right. So again, so it's combining another style of fire cooking into one place. So and then having the half plancha, half diamond grill, it's also really cool because we've seen flat tops and griddles become very popular. But now you're getting the benefit of that, but you're cooking on stainless steel and you're
Hmm.
getting powered by a live fire. So take a smash burger for example, you're getting flavor not just from the grill that you're cooking on, but the smoke and the fire that's powering it too.
Hmm. So the bottom unit that you're smoking in, where's the exhaust coming out on it?
There's two exhaust features. So there's one in the front and one in the back. So it just kind of creates a convection heat source. So it just kind of comes out the front and back, um, and then the upper unit is open. So the exhaust, it's
Yeah.
got a small exhaust around I guess the circumference, the lower unit. So that's where the air intake is coming in, and then
Hmm.
the exhaust itself is the fire pit.
Straight up. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
it's fun because I have a grade 10 science uh, education, but working with engineers and manufacturers, I'm able to explain how something has to work in a practical sense,
Hmm.
right? So they can have theory and they can have programming, and they can have the mathematical equations to make something work. But then I have to be like, well, no, but when you're cooking, when you're using it, this is how you would actually interact with it, and then you would make adjustments from there. So it was a lot of fun to have that kind of overlapping skill set,
Yeah.
to help develop a product. Because like we developed 3 prototypes, and now we're into our production model, and I put those prototypes through hell. Like I think each one I clocked in at over like 300 or 400 hours of cooking in a very
Nice.
condensed short period of time, because it was like, how can we really push these units to show that when someone gets it at home, that there isn't something that I haven't experienced that they
Yeah.
would probably encounter. Because again, when you're dealing with live fire, I often tell people you're kind of dancing with the fire,
Yeah.
and who's taking the lead in the dance. If you let the
Yeah.
fire take the lead, it'll ruin all your food. You have to be in control of what direction you want the fire to go, and that really helps quantify how you should approach cooking over a live fire, because it can escape you without you even wanting. You can turn your back. A gust of wind can just completely change your cook. So you really just need to be dialed in to what's going on. But you have to enjoy that too, right? Like that's the other side of it. If you feel like that's a chore, then you have to ask yourself, well, why are you doing this, right? Like
All right.
this should be for enjoyment and for, discovery, or the opportunity to just cook for people. So it shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like work. It should feel like an opportunity to keep learning.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of appropriate that this grill is coming to market when it is, because live fire is kind of in right now, and both in everybody's backyards and some of the TV shows that are in film and have filmed. It's kind of going back to the basics. It's like, it's I liken it to, it would be almost like before what they used to do, shoveling coals. Um,
Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting you bring up that point, because 2.5 years ago, when we were toggling between the terminology of barbecuing versus live fire cooking, I was pretty adamant on live fire cooking, because barbecuing is one aspect of what we're doing, but not the
mhm,
full story.
mhm.
And at the time, it was kind of an underused term. We were actually like, well, people know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
And now here we are 2.5 years later. To your point, the popularity has only increased, and I think that's a great thing, right? That we're catching it on this upwards kind of
yeah,
momentum, because it is what it is. It's a live fire, and you're cooking
yeah,
over a live fire.
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting to see a new grill that's hitting the market. Is it going to be? I mean, obviously you guys hope to be, in the States and all, but you guys are manufacturing in Canada, and
Yeah, so we're
that's
Canadian based, and the goal though is to get to the US. Like, it doesn't make the way we saw it was, how do we grow this community as naturally as possible? And we're a small team, right? So we need to be able to keep our eyes locally and kind of create a circular approach to growth. So
mhm,
we've targeted about 4 or 5 markets here, with every intention of hitting the US market year two. Because, I mean, if you just look at the population alone, the whole country of Canada is the population of California, right?
yeah,
So even though Toronto as a city is the fourth largest population in all of North America, we're a
yeah,
very large city in Toronto. You guys have a lot of those. sprinkled throughout the U.S. So we're
Yeah.
we're really looking at the California, Arizona, Nevada on the west, and then the Georgia, Texas, Florida of the south. Like that's our goal for our first year into the U.S. market. And who knows, we could be way off with that. But it's good to have goals.
Yeah.
So that's where we're looking to kind of to bring it. And we also just look at categorically those states tend to embrace live fire cooking the
Mm-hmm.
most, right? So if we had to enter into a market, it's easier to do that in an area where we're not just also teaching, like, what is this? Like, oh no, we know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of an easier transition
Yeah. It's I'm excited to see it, and kind of can't wait to, because I'm sure I'll know somebody that gets one once they come stateside. Um, it's live fire is that's kind of the next thing I want to get for the porch, for the yard, is something real nice. Live
collection.
fire. Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Like, I really think what's great about it too is the way we've ideated and designed it. We hope to continue to just keep building off of its existing
Hmm.
framework. So we've got ideas down the road for there's already a rotisserie attachment available built into it. So when we launch our rotisserie, it'll allow you to have three types of cooking happening at the same time: rotisserie, grill, and smoker.
Yeah.
We've also built it so that if we wanted to down the road, a pizza oven kind of attachment could be created for it as well. So the whole idea being, instead of developing something completely separate, like, how do you tap into that existing fire
Yeah.
and allow it to be something that people can grow with and
Hmm.
learn over time with, versus being like, oh, well, I've learned all I can do with this one.
Yeah.
On to the next, right?
Well, and with live fire, it's such a delicate dance. That's not something that it doesn't matter. I mean, you can measure the moisture in wood until the cows come home. It's still going to do what it's going to do, and you still have a certain reactionary, um, action with live fire cooking. It's you're not gonna master live fire cooking. I mean, you can be very, very good at it, but fire is still gonna be its own thing.
It's going to win every time. Every time it's going to win. So I think the important thing, every cook is different. Like, I'll do one cook, it was perfect. The next one, I'm like, oh, what went wrong today, or what changed? So I think it's really important to. I always tell people, take notes. Like, I'm a big note taker when I cook. I'm always jotting down notes. It's like, okay, uh, sunny day. Not
Mhm.
too much moisture in the air, heavier fat on the meat. I use a different. I love using fruit and nut woods. So it's
Mhm.
like, well, what happens if I deviate from my normal wood source? So little things like, did I use a lump or briquette to kind of get the fire going? Little things like that. So I think it's just important to take notes and just learn from your good cooks, but really learn from your not good cooks, right? You'll
Yeah.
learn more from that, because then you can understand, like, oh, you know what, like, and that's actually how we even built the product, right? Was um, like, I remember when we were testing one prototype to the second prototype, there was the fire up top. I could have that roaring for 12 hours.
Mhm.
And the second one, I think around the 5 hour mark, I was like, I'm losing steam. Like, what's going on? And I remembered that there was an element of elevation that the first prototype had that the second one didn't. Where all we needed to do was, like, think of this kind of almost like a riser, like a metal
Mhm.
riser to kind of lit, and then that just changed everything. So it's like little things like that, and you only learn by cooking. There's no
Yeah.
other way to learn that. You
Yeah.
can you can look at it and it can look pretty. You can turn it on and say, like, well, it's hot now, it works. You're never going to learn the way you'll learn off of actually cooking from it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's one thing I always, because I've got a small little barbecue group, 85,000 people, and then I've taught so many people remotely to cook on their new smokers, and it's always take notes. Get it as hot as it'll go, let it walk itself down, bring it back up, understand what you're using, and that's going to be a big element of being able to enjoy the grill that you guys are putting out, is understanding what it is that you're doing, and how to adapt what you've been doing to this, because live fire is so different.
It's weird too because I always find it takes 3 cooks to get a groove on it. Like the first cook, you're just feeling it out. The second cook, you're learning from the first cook's mistake. Your third cook is now where you actually have data, and you can
Yeah.
you can now figure out, how you're gonna make future things. So it takes about 3 cooks in general to understand a product, or at least understand how you're gonna dance with that fire, how you're gonna control it,
Yeah.
and how you're gonna get from it what you need to, do a ton of great stuff.
So I appreciate your time today. I do have a couple of I'm designing stuff in my head as we've been talking, and
Yeah.
obviously I've not seen this grill in person, and it may be that these features are part of it, but I'm thinking I need a hanging element, just like a rack that I can stick in on the top near the near the flat top area, that I can hang things that'll cook in. And then I'm gonna need the center fire pot for the top. I'm gonna need it elevated, and then I'm gonna need a place that I can put a flat shovel in the side and pull my coals out to shovel into my smoker.
Nice. So there's a bunch of that kind of already built in as part of it. So for hanging, you can hang smoke in the lower unit. There's already racks built to the top of the smoker that allows you to
Mm-hmm.
hang. So I actually I hang I did ducks. I smoked ducks down there, and then I pulled it back up to then get the fire to crisp up the skin.
Mm-hmm.
But then another thing too, I'm doing it on Thursday. I'm doing tacos al pastor, right? So you can hang the pork sliced up on the
Mm-hmm.
hanging mechanism with the pineapple, and just kind of let those juices kind of form and create. The other thing that you said was a mechanism that elevates. So it has a feature built in for that to happen eventually, just like the rotisserie
Okay.
and the pizza oven. So we already kind of developed, like basically we had a couple ideas where like asado cooking makes sense, to have like the tea kind
Yeah.
of be able to rise and lower. We have a swivel arm. Again, we've designed it so that way eventually you could have a swivel arm go over the fire. And basically, you're doing like indirect roasting at that point,
Yeah.
too, right? Like really good for like spatchcock chicken or like
Mm-hmm.
lamb legs or something like that, where you're still getting that fire kissing it without
Yeah.
it being too intense. Also, you can put the grill right. It'll come with it year one or right out the gate, a grill that fits flush on the fire pit hole. So that's
Mm-hmm.
I've been using that as like our very high searing station,
Yeah.
because if you allow that wood to cook down, you put the grill right over it. You can sear off something in 30 seconds up there. Like it gets that hot. I've also been I'll put a wok right in the middle there, or I'll put a Dutch oven because it's a 10-inch, I guess, diameter. So I'll put like a
Nice.
Dutch oven right in there, or a wok right in there to do frying. So it's great like that because it allows you to actually engage and interact. I also tell people the best tool for this intuitive style of cooking is actually a rake, to be able to push and pull
Mm-hmm.
fire towards you or to a certain area. So and then the shoveling you might not need to do because of the two fires. So what we do is I set up to both fires essentially at the same time.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't need to, or at least I haven't yet, even on a brisket cook, need to replenish your lower fire. The only thing
Okay.
I've ever done is open it up and throw a couple other pieces of wood chunks in there
Yeah.
because I just want another couple hits of smoke. But
Yeah.
I figure nothing has gone longer than the brisket cook
Hmm.
time wise, and I was able to rock about 8-9 hours straight at 225 without having to replenish any charcoal down there. So
Oh,
again,
nice.
a lot of that comes down to how you build your fire,
Yeah.
but I think it's a lot of the education will come with it too.
Yeah. Well, see, I thought I was going to stump you there, and it's already built in. I
There
love
we
it,
go.
man.
There
I
we go.
love it.
Well, and listen though, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love hearing the questions like that. I love it when people ask me questions because that means you're thinking about the cook and you're thinking about how you're going to interact with it. And I just from watching various, community groups, people who have their whatever smoker they use, they treat it like their sports team, right? Like if you're and if you care about that, like so, I'll just watch community groups and it's like customer service teams don't even have to chime in. Like people, the community themselves are answering the questions for people. Like so,
Yeah.
it's like this is the easiest job ever. You just need to like make sure no one's crapping all over the brand, and you can allow your. But that just means that people care and they're engaged and
Yeah.
they want to see other people succeed and they want to see the product do well too, right? Like they want to have a good cooking experience, and I have no doubt that someone like yourself is going to start playing with an alchemy, have ideas, and probably jimmy rig something until we see it done a bunch of times. And then
Yeah.
who knows, like the version 2 or the version 3 has that built in. I have no doubt that that's probably how pizza ovens being attached on top of barbecues started happening. People just started creating these domes. And then
Yeah.
brands were like, well, we already have the vessel. What's it cost to put a dome on top of that to harness the fire?
Yeah, that's what I was sitting here. I was like, I'm thinking like a massive pizza dome that's
Yeah.
on that's maybe got some some ball bearings that'll sort of rotate around, so you can get
Oh, fun.
10 pizzas on it, and you're just literally going around it, putting pizzas in and pulling pizzas out.
Yeah, you're a proper pizzaiolo at that point, right? When you're
That's
doing
gonna
it.
it's gonna be fun. I'm
Very cool.
excited to see it, and man, I'm honored to have had you on the show.
I'm
Uh,
honored. It's my pleasure, man. This has been great.
awesome, man. Go ahead and hit me with your social medias for my folks to follow you and the Alchemy Grills excursion.
Yeah, so best thing to do is to follow Alchemy Grills on Instagram and TikTok. Everything from educational videos to just great recipe ideas. And then my own personal one, Chef Matt Basile. It's mostly alchemy stuff on there as well. So either one, you're getting your fill.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, and we'll catch up. We'll catch you real soon. Do plan to make a trip up to the Canadian neighbor in the next couple of years. I've got a couple of buddies up that way that I do need to.
May to September. Don't just
Oh
don't do it to yourself. Don't do
yeah.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
no. No. I'm a warm weather guy.
I
And,
spent the winter in Florida, so I was like, even coming back home, even like we have really nice weather this week.
mhm.
That's why I'm in a t-shirt. But up until last week, it was still winter-esque, and it was tough. Like it's long. So
Yeah.
I always tell people if you're gonna visit May through September or October, beautiful. Other than that, come for Christmas. It's beautiful at Christmas. Don't come in late January. Don't do that.
No, that whole that portion of the continent is off limits to people like me. Um,
Understand.
awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll catch you real soon. You guys keep your eyes out for the Alchemy Grills.
Thanks so much, man. Be well.
Thank you.
Cheers.